Hey everybody, welcome back to Mystifying Miracles. Our story today involves a 14-year-old boy that this actually occurred earlier this year, and he got lost in a blizzard for over 21 hours. Stay tuned and we'll dive in. Mason Archibald. That sounds so like regal. Anyway, Mason Archibald, he was 14 years old and he was an 8th grader at the Bear River Middle School. It was Saturday, February 8th, earlier this year, 2025, when Mason and several of his family and close friends went snowmobiling. However, he didn't have any clue what was about to take place. The group as a whole decided to go up to a place called Logan Canyon, where they could just have some fun all together, snowmobiling, and, just cutting up, having a good time. Now, Mason himself, he was the outdoorsy kind of kid. He was good at everything he did, whether it's baseball, camping, the whole outdoor thing that you can think of. Mason loved doing it, and he did it well. Now, he had never been snowmobiling before, but his dad that was there with the group, and as well as everybody else in the group, they weren't worried about it. For one, he's 14. Two, they knew Mason caught on quick to anything, and they'd be there with him. So, no big deal. So they all hop on their little snowmobiles and they start going up the hill, and it's beautiful. Snow everywhere. And the group, they were together for a few hours, reports said. They didn't split up or anything like that. But after those few hours passed, it was about 11 a.m. where some of the group decided, all right, well, we all have the hang of this and we're doing fine. Why don't we all split up and kind of explore on our own a little bit? That shouldn't be a big deal. So they all agree and kind of part ways and do their own thing. Also, it's said that the terrain and the canyon itself that goes into Franklin County, Idaho, it's not rugged or dangerous. It's pretty smooth. So another probably reason why the group thought, this is not a dangerous part or anything like that. It shouldn't be a big deal. Well, Mason's riding his big, bright yellow snowmobile, and it was a few minutes that passed when he realized no one else was in view. And he's looking around and he's thinking, golly, they took off quick. So he's looking and he's kind of thinking, well, and he knew he didn't know how to get back to camp alone. He didn't know the direction or the way. So he then begins looking particularly for his father. He's got to be close by somewhere, he's thinking. But he can't even hear another snowmobile, let alone see it. So he's starting to panic. So much so, the poor kid, he begins just crying profusely. He didn't know what to do. He begins, after crying for quite a bit, he begins praying, asking God to save him and show him the way and help him find somebody. Finally, Mason comes to the conclusion, okay, I'm just going to drive around a little bit then, surely I'll run into someone or my dad. So he begins to do that, looking around as he's going. And he ends up driving up one particular hill and going all the way across on the other side of the mountain. I don't know if he knew he was doing that, but that's what happened. And eventually, over on that other side, he came to a steep slant. And the snowmobile, it started feeling really heavy and like it might tump over. So it scared Mason quite a bit. And he thought, oh gosh, I don't want to get hurt or fall. So he decides to abandon the snowmobile. He hops off and he just starts walking as he's searching instead. Mason walked around for hours that afternoon, just searching and hoping and praying repeatedly. Nighttime comes and Mason has no choice but to hunker down. Get himself hunkered low into the snow. There was nothing else to do. For one, it was dark. Two, it was extremely cold because a blizzard had hit. And they say that the temperatures that night dropped 15 degrees below zero. Meanwhile, Mason's dad, of course, he's panicking. not knowing where his son is, also knowing that a blizzard was there now. In fact, it was just 45 minutes into their search for Mason when the blizzard finally hit. He was thinking this can't be good, obviously. News reports state that it was about 2:30 p.m. when the Cache County Sheriff's Search and Rescue, they started to assist and help the Franklin County officials in Idaho, doing their search. There were snowmobiles searching for Mason. There was air support. There were helicopters looking, and they just couldn't see him. Also, they had gotten pings in a few different places from Mason's cell phone, and they tried to reach him several times, but nothing ever seemed to go through. What they didn't know is that because of the extreme temperatures that night, the phone had just died. And it had been in Mason's pocket the whole time. It was just too cold. Altogether, with everyone searching, it was over 12 hours of searching and coming up empty. Also, Mason's mother, Mindy, she had been home this whole time. Of course, panicking on her own as well, but she decided to reach out online and ask if there'd be any volunteers that could help in the search for Mason. Actually, that happened. Several dozen folks showed up that day and night to work in shifts as this blizzard's, coming down on them. But they worked in shifts to search for Mason. But again, unfortunately, coming up empty. Now back to Mason. During this time, especially at night when he's hunkered down as this blizzard raining down on him, he knows all about frostbite. I mean, he had dealt with cold weather a long time doing outdoor things, but never to this extent. Not in a blizzard, and of course he had never snowmobiled before. But he knew, okay, I cannot get frostbitten. If I get frostbitten, then I might have to have it cut off. And it wasn't said till after the fact to news reports or news stations later on, but what was going through 14-year-old Mason's mind was baseball season. So he was a baseball fanatic and he loved playing baseball. And so he kept thinking, if I get frostbite, I can't play baseball. So that was in his mind the whole time. So that night he decided to toss and turn and kick. He didn't get any sleep hardly, but he wasn't going to sit still because he knew I have to keep that blood flow going so that I don't get frostbite. About 8 to 9 a.m. the next morning is when Mason awoke. And what awoke him was an actual snowmobile that he heard in the distance. And it sounded like it was getting closer and closer. So he starts getting excited and he starts looking all around. And as the sound is getting closer and closer, he starts yelling out, "Help! Help!" And soon enough, as that sound's getting closer and closer, he sees in the distance on the hill a snowmobile driving down and it's coming towards him. So he's waving his arms and he's still yelling. He knew that, oh my gosh, thank you, God, this nightmare is over. EMTs arrive soon enough to check Mason out and they give him a thorough assessment and everything is great. No injuries. And definitely no frostbite. They called his mother and they told her, the update. And, he doesn't need to go to the hospital. He's fine. But she actually insisted, of course, the mother is probably going to do that. So they end up taking him to the local hospital anyway, where he's checked over again. And of course, all is well. It's fine. No frostbite. That's the most miraculous thing out of this. Well, I guess it's he was found, but also no frostbite. In fact, doctors were quite amazed that he didn't have frostbite. How did he survive a blizzard? He's just 14 and then not get frostbite. This is unheard of. In fact, they even said to the parents and to the news stations that this is the first of its kind in over 30 years. They had never seen somebody endure the elements like Mason did and not get frostbite. They flat out declared that a miracle right there that he didn't. And the parents gave a statement too to the press, and I'll read their quote. "We are so grateful, really, because of all we could think of was to ask people for prayers, and saw so many come together and pray and search for our son. We are so grateful." End quote.
Mason Archibald went out early Saturday morning to go snowmobiling for the first time when he says he got separated from his dad and his friends.
I just went and I kind of took off, and I wasn't really paying attention to where they were, and I went off too far, and I kept going straight, and I looked like, oh no, where are they?
Hours went by as Mason heard snowmobilers all around him. He says he yelled for help and tried to make himself seen.
You're thinking, what if it storms? And yeah, it felt scary, and yeah, but I kept saying prayers and kept hope.
He says he spent the night trying to stay warm, curled up in the snow, when after 21 hours of searching, 2 snowmobilers found him Sunday morning.
I ran and I jumped and gave him a hug. And then since that, I was really thankful.
Mason's parents say their son wouldn't have made it out alive if it weren't for everyone who volunteered to help search.
There are no words to express our gratitude. We just saw community come together, several communities and friends and family and strangers, to support a child being found. And we're truly grateful for that.
So, what do you guys think of that? That's obvious miracle right there. That amazes me. I've never been through blizzard elements. That's just not going to happen here in Texas. But I can't imagine a 14-year-old boy, I can't imagine anyone enduring those elements and then not, getting frostbitten at the very least. So it's a miracle that it's sad that he had to go through that. But, maybe he learned several things about that and how to survive. He clearly was a smart kid, knowing to stay active so that, that he wouldn't get frostbite. So just a cool story. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. And thank you. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening to me ramble on about these incredible, miraculous stories. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you next time.